Hey there everyone, and welcome to Bill's Retro Gaming Show. On today's video, I'm going to be showing off a couple of classic console games that I recently picked up at a local retro gaming store. Stay tuned, and I'll show you right after this. All right, everyone, as always, thanks so much for tuning in. If this is your first time on the channel, be sure to hit that subscription button. Click the notification bell if you want to be notified every time I put up a new video. Give this one a thumbs up and leave a comment below if you want to be part of the conversation. So recently I found out that there is a gaming store not too far from me. Actually, this place used to have a little shop in the next town over in Peekskill. Few months back, they recently closed that. They moved to a section, a town that's closer to me, a little easier to get to, a little better parking. And the store is called The Rift. Now, The Rift specializes in all kinds of different gaming stuff, what board games, role-playing games, miniatures, models, all that kind of stuff. They have a section for comic books, and they also have a section of retro games, whether it's Nintendo, NES, Super NES, they've got some Dreamcast, they've got even some newer titles for Switch and PS5, but they even go as far back as Atari and ColecoVision. And as some of you may be aware, I recently got my hands on an old ColecoVision, got the Atari 2600 add-on module for it, and I've been trying to find some classic games to play on it. I gotta tell you, they are fewer and far between trying to find. It's a lot easier to find some of the newer, more quote-unquote modern retro things from PlayStation, N64, Xbox, that kind of era. Once you go a little further back, it gets a little tougher. Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Genesis, those you can still kind of find in a lot of places, but you get back to like the Atari 2600, ColecoVision, and it's very rare for places to have it. So I was very happy to walk into the store and find that they had a little shelf with a handful of games on it, and I decided to pick a couple up, and I'll show you which ones I got right now. So to start off, I picked up one game there for the ColecoVision. Now, they only had a handful of ColecoVision games, maybe only 2 or 3. There is one other that I may go back and pick up, but I decided to get this one first, and this is Mousetrap. Now, Mousetrap was released for the ColecoVision when it launched in 1982. It's kind of a Pac-Man style clone where you play a mouse running around a maze trying to eat little bits of cheese, and you're chased by multiple cats. Now, a couple of interesting things with this game is that the maze has different colored gates in it. Now, those gates are colored red, yellow, and blue, and using the ColecoVision's keypad, you could click a button to open or close one of the different gates. Now, you've also got a button that for a limited time will turn you from a mouse into a dog, and you can run after and catch the cats, similar to Pac-Man eating a power pellet and being able to eat the ghosts. Now, what's cool about this particular game is, like I said, the ColecoVision had a little numbered keypad on it, and certain games would come with a little overlay that you could put on that controller to tell you which buttons to press to collect, to do which particular action. Now, the one thing about trying to collect old school ColecoVision games is sometimes when you pick up a game, it doesn't come with those overlays, or those overlays are in rough shape because the act of putting them in and out of that little control pad chewed the edges up like crazy. So I was very excited not only to find this game, but to find that it had both overlays on it and that they are in basically pristine condition. There's literally nothing wrong with these overlays. So I was really excited to get that because that's something that you don't always find with the older ColecoVision games. Now, another great thing about collecting old school games like this is they usually go for pretty cheap, and this one was only $5.99, which I thought was a good price for a launch title for ColecoVision with the 2 overlays in excellent condition. So I was very happy to get this. I love Mousetrap. It's a really fun game, and it's fun to play. Now, the Rift had a much bigger selection of Atari 2600 games, and there were a lot of them to pick from. Again, I probably go back, probably pick up some more at a later time, but I decided to grab two particular ones while I was there. And interestingly enough, both of them are actually based on movie licenses. Now, as any of you who have played video games for any length of time knows that a lot of times movie license games really aren't that great. But these two particular ones are actually pretty good and ones that I remember playing back in the early to mid 80s when I had a KCCO Vision, when I had the 2600 module originally, plus, friends who had Atari 2600s and stuff going to their house and playing. And these I both remember as being fun, albeit somewhat difficult games. So I was kind of excited to pick them up. And the first one is this. Yep, this is Krull.
Might teach you some manners to hang upside down for an hour or two.
That's right, Krull. The Krull game is based on the 1983 movie of the same name. It is a sci-fi fantasy-based movie. The game came out that same year, 1983, for the Atari 2600. Now, there was also an arcade game based on the movie that came out right around the same time, but the Atari 2600 game is not based on the arcade version of this. It's actually based on scenes from the movie. There are 4 or 5 different scenes in the game, starting with the attack on the castle from early in the film when the Princess Lissa gets kidnapped. You play as the main hero, trying to fight off the kidnappers before they can come and take her away. Followed by that is a scene where you ride horses through a desert and you have to pick up different pieces of the title weapon, the glaive, that you can use for later on in the game. From there, you go to a scene with the Widow of the Web. This was a giant spider and a giant spider's web that you had to kind of fight your way, that they fought their way through in the movie. In the game, you have to jump over the web as it keeps moving to try to get to the center of the web where the Widow will reveal the location of the evil fortress. From there, you ride through the desert again, and the goal is to get to the fortress at a specific time of day. You have to arrive at a specific time of the day based on a counter in the game. If you miss getting to the fortress on time, you lose a life and you have to go back to the scene with the spider and jump over the web again until ultimately you can get to the fortress and fight the beast by using your glaive to break through his barrier, kind of similar to the scene in the Tron arcade game where you have to break through the barrier to get to the MCP. It's kind of a similar kind of aspect to it where, like I said, you have to fire your glaive to get through the barrier and ultimately defeat the beast and then start all over again in the game. It's a fun game. It's a tough game, if I remember correctly. Not easy. That part about getting to the fortress at the right time of day always seemed to elude me. I always had trouble trying to figure that out and get to that part of the game. But playing through it is a lot of fun. And in some aspects, actually even more fun than the arcade game. But yeah, this was a fun title to pick up. Glad to have it in my collection. And again, not too expensive at $12.99. And finally, the last game I picked up is again based on a movie. This was a little title from early 1980 that I think you might have heard of. It's called Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back. The Empire Strikes Back was released for the Atari 2600 in 1982, and the game takes place on the planet Hoth as the rebels are trying to escape from the Empire. You play as Luke Skywalker or a rebel pilot. I don't remember if it actually tells you who you're supposed to be playing as, but you are in a snow speeder facing off against the AT-ATs as they advance on Echo Base. The whole point of the game is you fly back and forth firing at the AT-ATs, trying to whittle down their shields until you can ultimately take them out. There are something like 4 or 5 of them per game, and the game goes until you either defeat all of the AT-ATs, run out of lives, or they reach Echo Base. Honestly, this is probably one of the best Star Wars games ever made. I love this game, so much better than the Atari 2600 version of the original Star Wars arcade game. Now, I love the Star Wars arcade game. You can kind of tell I have it here. I love it. It's a lot of fun. But the Atari 2600 version just really didn't do it justice. When it came to doing Empire Strikes Back, rather than try to repeat that formula, they came up with their own thing with this fighting the AT-ATs in your snowspeeder on Hoth. And it worked out to their benefit because it turns out to be a really fun game. Yes, it's the same thing over and over again. It does get a little repetitive after a while, but it's a hard enough game that you don't play it for very long anyway. So what you are playing is enjoyable. And I have to say, like I said, really was, especially at that time, one of the best Star Wars games ever made. So again, to have this in my collection for my Atari 2600 was something that I was very excited to get and very happy to pick up. And again, not bad at $9.99. So there you have it. Those are the latest games that I picked up for my classic console collection. And to pick up 3 games for under 30 bucks, I think I did pretty good. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Are you a fan of these really old school games from the Atari, ColecoVision, Intellivision type era? Are you more of a Nintendo, Sega Master System, SNES, Genesis collector? Or are you more into the PlayStation and Xbox type era and beyond? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. But for me, I'm very excited to do this. I'm still collecting for some other systems like the NES and the Super NES. As I pick up some of those, I'll show those to you guys as well. But I gotta say, the store that I went to, the Rift, they had a handful of NES and Super NES games. Nothing that really excited me enough to pick up, but these I was very happy to get. So it's a store that I will definitely be keeping an eye on. I'm very happy to have something like that close to me because, again, finding these retro games in the area where I live tends to be a difficult prospect to have. So to have a store that caters to that is very good for me. So I'm excited for that. But again, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up as well. And of course, if you're not subscribed to the channel yet, go ahead and do that as well. That's going to do it for now. And I hope to see you guys on the next one. Thanks so much for watching and have a great day. Take care.